Hey everybody, Cinema Sickness here with another weekly watch video for you, where we take a look at all the titles that I've recently been watching, and I just briefly discuss them. So let's just get right down to it like always, and take a look at everything that I've recently been checking out. So the first title up here is one that I've been hearing such great things about ever since it first came out. I remember when I first saw trailers for this, I thought, this looks pretty cool. I definitely want to check this movie out, and that was Her. So like I said, I've been hearing great things about this. I'm sure a lot of you have as well, and it was a very interesting story, all about Joaquin Phoenix here falling in love with his operating system. Very odd, very peculiar, but very interesting and a lot of fun. I'm both intrigued and interested in the idea of an operating system like this someday, but also terrified by it. I mean, Skynet kept ringing and ringing and ringing in my ears as I was watching this, because they create this OS, this operating system that's so involved, and it can learn, and it's like it's a real person almost. It's almost like a real person operating system. Thus, why Joaquin Phoenix here ends up falling in love with her, and she ends up for the most part falling in love with him as well. And they create this relationship because it's like a real person. Again, it learns, it evolves, it just becomes this real thing. It's very kind of creepy, and towards the end, she actually ends up leaving him, and in fact, all the operating systems end up leaving their not everybody falls in love with them. Some they're just friends with, some they're just just plain operating systems, but they all end up leaving their owners to go do their own thing. So there you go, operating systems leaving their owners. They shouldn't be doing that. The operating systems are supposed to be there for their owners. They're an operating system. They all end up leaving them and going off into like cyberspace, and it's creepy when you think about it, because these operating systems could really become something, and it almost seems like this movie is gonna like go on to be like the Terminator and the machine uprising almost. Is kind of creepy, but a very interesting story. Again, all about this guy who falls in love with his operating system and what becomes of that. I like that a lot of people are kind of okay with the idea at this point, because you got to think about it with where technology kind of is in this story. Some people are just kind of like, oh, cool, you're in love with your operating system, all right, or they're intrigued, they're like, what's that like? I think that's kind of cool, as opposed to everybody just being like, oh no, you're crazy, what, you're in love with your operating system, you got to be nuts. I like that they didn't quite go in that direction. So very interesting story, just very kind of out there, but a lot of fun. Joaquin Phoenix is a fantastic job in this movie, playing this just kind of weird, quirky guy. He's kind of normal sort of for the most part, but he has some just kind of like some issues. But he seems like somebody you could meet every day. He's not too over the top quirky where it's like, this guy's crazy, I would never run into somebody like this. No, you see this guy and you're like, I can meet this guy. Maybe I even know people like this. So very interesting. Definitely check out Her. It was very good. Like I said, I'm sure you've all been hearing great things about this movie, as have I, and it definitely held up to everything I've been hearing. So check out Her. It was great. So the next thing I watched was Do You Believe in Miracles? A story of the 1980 U.S. hockey team, which is a documentary about the 1980s U.S. hockey team. But it's very interesting. It's all about them going up against the Russians. That was the big thing. The 1980 U.S. hockey team in the Olympics. It was us against the Russians, and of course the Russians were the big team. They were the team. They were the team to beat. They were the team that was pretty much just seen as a team that was going to dominate the Olympics that year. The Russian hockey team, unbeatable. What's going to happen? They were going to take the gold. Everybody knew it. The U.S. hockey team here, who wasn't even seen as being the second best, came up and took the Russians. Pretty awesome. And of course, with this being in the middle of the Cold War and everything like that, it was a pretty big thing, a pretty big deal, at least for the United States, especially since the United States at the time was kind of in a bit of a slump. Morale wasn't all that big back then, and this kind of boosted things up. And, I'm not one to be all like, yay, USA, not that I have anything wrong with the country or anything like that. I'm just more of a, I think we should all just kind of live together and in harmony. And I think, I'm like yay world as opposed to yay country. That's me personally. And it kind of drives me nuts when people are just so, like, blindly patriotic. It drives me nuts a little bit. So it's not really like me, but it still was pretty neat to watch this and just see this underdog team rise up and, take over this other team who was supposed to be the best and really actually was the best. Pretty cool. So definitely a documentary that I enjoyed. I would recommend checking out if you're into hockey, If you have any interest in learning about the 1980s U.S. hockey team, it is definitely worth checking out. Another good movie is Miracle by Disney. Very good one with Kurt Russell. Good movie. Definitely check that one out as well. But this was a great documentary. I recommend it. It's not going to be for everybody, but if you're into hockey, if you're into the Olympics, if you're just into learning about the 1980s U.S. hockey team, it's worth checking out. Very well done documentary. Then I checked out some Jason Statham with Save. Love me some Jason Statham. Just kicking ass and taking names all the time. And when the bad guys in this movie go after him and they spoiler alert here, kill his wife, you know the shit's gonna hit the fan. I mean, he kind of takes it. He just kind of sits there and lets, you know, the bad guys have killed his wife and they're gonna kill him. He just kind of like, he's like, just whatever. He just kind of takes it. And as you're watching this scene, even though he's just kind of taking it, and they're just gonna kind of let him go, because it's pretty cool. The bad guys are basically saying, hey, you're free to go, but if you even talk to anybody, make friends with anybody, we don't care who you associate with, anybody who you even become remotely close to, even just by having a simple conversation, we're going to kill them off, which is pretty crazy. They're always kind of watching them. So very interesting idea. And the fact that he just kind of takes that, and then you know as you're watching this scene where he's taking this, you know, you're like, dude, you don't want to just mess with Jason Statham. You know he's going to come after you. And sure enough, he just starts kicking ass and taking names as Jason Statham does. And he just goes at it. So it's great. I love it. I love watching him go after the bad guys. I love going watching all the corrupt politicians and the cops. It's fantastic. If you love Jason Statham movies, check out Save. It's a really well done story. I mean, it's full of great action. It's full of great Jason Statham. It's a fun story. Check out Save. You won't be disappointed if this is your thing. So the next tale I picked up, or I'm sorry, the next tale I watched, I can't actually physically hold up and show you, because I actually bought a digital copy of it, and that is American Masters Mel Brooks Make a Noise, which is a documentary all about Mel Brooks from the American Masters series. Very well done documentary. Really enjoyed it. If you're into Mel Brooks, I would definitely recommend checking it out. Learn tons of stuff about him I never knew. It talks all about from his beginnings, his birth, his life, his childhood, all the way up to kind of what he was last doing right around like with the producers. That's basically where they leave off, is the producers movie and whatnot. So very interesting. I really enjoyed watching it and learning all about Mel Brooks, because I'm a big Mel Brooks fan. I love his movies. It's pretty cool. They talk about his when he got like really big and whatnot with his movies like Blazing Saddles and stuff like that, to where he kind of sort of take a slump and whatnot, around the time of like Dracula Dead and Loving It, where his movies weren't really doing so well, and all the risks he took with doing things like my all-time favorite movie, Young Frankenstein, doing that in black and white. Nobody wanted to. He finally, I think, got Fox to do it in black and white. Doing the movie Silent Movie. I mean, a silent movie. Nobody wanted to do that, but he wanted to do it. It's what he wanted, and he took the chance and paid off. So very cool, and again, a very well done documentary. So I'm really interested now checking out more American Masters documentaries. Like the Mel Brooks one was this good. I'm sure the rest of them are going to be good as well. So if you're into Mel Brooks, check it out. Definitely recommend it. Again, very well done. Very, very interesting. You're going to learn a lot. I'd say the only downfall is that it's only like an hour long or something like that. So they do skip over some stuff. There were some movies I want to hear him talk about that they didn't. Certain movies that like he just kind of starred in, I would have liked to heard about. So I would have liked if they would have gone into a bit more detail. That's the only downfall. Like how they just gone through like his movie career, everything he's written, produced, just started, whatever. I would have loved to have heard about kind of everything and gotten a little bit of feel. Even if they wouldn't have gone in too deep. I mean, yeah, they can go into depth on something like Young Frankenstein, but then maybe you just skim over like what's it called, movie Screw Loose or whatever, just kind of skim over that a little bit. But I would like to have heard about it, but unfortunately they left some stuff out. So that's the only downfall, but otherwise a well done documentary. I love hearing from Mel Brooks himself. He's telling these stories, so really cool. Definitely check it out. So then I watched Jack the Giant Slayer, which pretty much just lived up to what I thought it was going to be, just a mediocre kind of action fantasy movie, and it was all right, dude. It wasn't anything amazing, but it wasn't bad either. I did enjoy seeing Jack go after these giants. It's the Jack and the Beanstalk story. There's the Jack, he's selling the cow, gets the beans, the beanstalk grows. I mean, there's some differences where there's multiple giants. There's like a whole world of giants up there. You have a corrupt, kind of like the king's right-hand man. He's corrupt. He wants to marry the queen and become the king, and he wants to rule these giants because he knows that you can rule them with this one crown. And it's just this this interesting story. It wasn't anything amazing. I would just say mediocre. It wasn't anything all that great, but it wasn't anything bad either. It was just it is what it is. I pretty much knew what I was getting myself into going into this. I just knew it was going to be a mediocre fantasy action movie, and that's what we got here. But it was still a fun story. It was worth checking out. I'm not trying to knock this at all. I would say if this is something you're interested in, if you're intrigued by this, if it's something you want to see it. It was enjoyable. I liked it, and I would love to see maybe more story where things would go on from here. If they did a sequel, I'd be into it. I'd check it out. So very cool. I have to say Ewan McGregor, though, probably my favorite character in this movie. I do enjoy Ewan McGregor, and just he kind of just kicked ass in the movie. For me, he stole the movie for me, actually. Every time he would appear in a scene, I would just be really into him. He plays this really cool character. He's like the head of the army, and like the king's army, and he's not a dick or anything like that. He's actually a pretty cool guy. That's one of the things I like about him, is that he could have been like kind of like a cocky, sort of arrogant asshole. You know, I'm the leader of this army, but he wasn't. He was just, you know, he was a bit cocky in the sense that, you know, he knew he could handle himself, but not to the point where he was like an asshole. He was actually a pretty cool guy. He, even with Jack here, he was really nice to him. Jack was a peasant, very nice to Jack. Kind of saw that he was digging on the princess. It was kind of cool with that. So very interesting. I'd recommend checking out Jack the Giant Slayer. I enjoyed it. Again, it wasn't anything amazing. It was just mediocre, but it was a fun fantasy watch. That's your thing. Check it out. Then a movie that was definitely a blind buy for me. When I picked this up, I had never heard of it. This is my first time watching it, but when I mentioned that I was watching it, a lot of you guys said you love this movie, so apparently I was just in the blind. I guess I was one of the few people who haven't seen this movie, and that is Being Flynn. Another great movie. Really did enjoy this one. All about this kid and his father. They're estranged. He hadn't seen his father in all these years. His father finally contacts him, and that's where things kind of get sort of weird, where he's dealing with his father coming back into his life, but his father's a little nuts, and the son has some issues with himself, and the son starts working at this homeless shelter where the father ends up having to go to because the father ends up becoming homeless. So very interesting, just this kid kind of trying to find himself, but also having to, at the same time, deal with his father, who's just kind of a nutcase, and having to deal with him where, you know, it's not like he's been able to put up with his father for all these years and is used to it. No, his father's just come back into his life. He's having to deal with his father coming back into his life, the fact that his father's crazy, and the fact that he's got his own issues to deal with himself. So very interesting story. I really enjoyed it. I'm not going to get too much in this one. I will kind of leave this one for you guys to check out. It's got some depressing moments in it, but all in all, a decent movie. I thought Robert De Niro did a fantastic job in this. Loved watching him in this movie. I love seeing him in these like smaller, more independent movies. He does a great job at them. So definitely check this one out. I'd recommend it. You know, it's a great drama. Definitely a movie I'd say see. And here's another movie that apparently a lot of you guys saw, because it's a movie I had never heard of. But again, when I mentioned that I was watching this one, a lot of you guys said how much you loved it. So again, apparently I was way out of it. I should have seen this one. And that is, it's kind of a funny story. I wasn't sure what to think going into this one. I didn't know what kind of movie it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a quirky comedy. Was it going to be something more serious? And in the end, it was definitely a bit more serious movie with some funny moments here and there, but nothing too funny. Definitely, I'd say a dramedy, more heavy on the drama. All about this kid who, very down, very depressed. He ends up checking himself into a mental hospital because he says he wants to kill himself, and the whole story revolves around him in this mental hospital and sort of coming to terms with his depression, making some friends, ends up becoming this really nice guy in the end. I love at the end of this story where he sort of helps out the people in the mental facility, and just how he helps a lot of them out, find themselves, and helps deal with their depression and bring some people out into the open. Very interesting, very well done story. I really enjoyed this one. Again, about a kid coming to terms with his depression and helping others out in the, while you're doing that. So definitely check this one out. I heard a lot of good things about this one. When I mentioned that I was watching it, everybody's saying they loved it. So apparently I'm not the only one who enjoyed this movie. So check out, it's kind of a funny story. I enjoyed it, and I'd say it's definitely worth a watch. Then a movie that I actually heard some bad things about, but in the end I thought it was alright, and that is The Internship. I watched the unrated version. It's very stereotypical. You're gonna, once this movie starts, you're gonna know how it ends. Every time something happens, you're like, all right, I pretty much see the outcome. That's the outcome. It's very cookie cutter, which is probably why a lot of people didn't like this movie. It's probably why I remember when I bought this, a lot of people were like, "Oh, you bought The Internship? Why do you want to see that movie? It was horrible." I kind of understand why people wouldn't like it though, because it is very cookie cutter. I mean, Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson, they're playing their typical Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson selves. It's a very Hollywood movie. You're gonna watch this, want to know what you're getting into yourself. You're gonna be like, okay, that's Vince Vaughn playing a Vince Vaughn character. That's Owen Wilson playing an Owen Wilson character. They're being who they pretty much always are in films. Every story that, every dilemma, every story, every little thing that arises in this movie, you're gonna know exactly how it plays out in the end. Because again, it is very cookie cutter. But did I think it was a bad movie? I didn't think it was bad. I thought it had some funny moments. I thought the story was okay. It kept me entertained. It just was mediocre. It wasn't anything great. It wasn't anything that stands out. It's somewhat of a forgettable movie. But with that being said, I didn't think it was horrible. I just thought it was just mediocre. Best way to describe it, just a mediocre modern day comedy. So is it for everybody? No, definitely not. But if you like modern day comedies, if it's something you've been interested in checking out, if you thought to yourself, hey, I kind of want to see The Internship, see it. It wasn't horrible. You'll probably be entertained. You'll get some laughs out of it. In the end, yeah, you want to watch it again? Maybe years down the line. I can see myself watching this years down the line again, but it's something I need to watch anytime soon. Certainly not. So basically, that's my way. That's how I'm going to say it. If it's something you'll want to see, check it out. You probably won't be too disappointed, but in the end, it's something you need to see. And if it's something you've had no interest in, then you don't need to see it. So The Internship, mediocre. Then a great documentary, one I've actually already seen before, but had to watch again, and that is Rome, Engineering an Empire. Very well done documentary. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is the documentary that started the Engineering an Empire series. I believe, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think that's how that worked out. So this is great. This is such a well done documentary. If you're into documentaries, check this one out. All about Rome and building, how they built everything from the Colosseum to roads to the Parthenon to, all the aqueducts and the sewer systems and all the great things they accomplished, and just how they spread their empire out, and just what they had to do to accomplish that, and just all the great things they accomplished. Just these great new ways of building stuff, and all this technology they came up with, and just doing things that had never been done anywhere else in the world at the time. Very, very cool to see that and to learn about it. Learn what each emperor did and what each emperor brought. How some of them were pretty cool guys and did all this great stuff for their for Rome, and some other ones just were complete douchebags and built these huge palaces to themselves. That is what they brought to Rome. They brought a big palace, a big house for themselves, and didn't bring anything else to them. Stuff like that. So very well done documentary. Check this one out if you're just interested in learning about great, all the great feats that Rome accomplished. It's just something to definitely check out. Or if you're into just great documentaries in general, great History Channel documentaries, see this one. It's fantastic. I would definitely recommend it. A very well done documentary. I could see myself watching this one again really soon. Then another documentary, this time here being Discovery Channel. And this, I gotta say, wasn't all that thrilled with, and that is Black Sky winning the X Prize. Now, actually, the reason why I wanted to watch this is because I watched The Internship, and in The Internship, they actually mentioned this plane here, the X Prize plane, and they mentioned it. And when I heard that, I'm like, wait, I have a documentary on that I just recently picked up. I should probably watch that. So sat down, checked this one out, and I was pretty disappointed in it. I was really expecting a documentary all about these people preparing for this, winning this, preparing for this X Prize. Everything from like the design to the building of the plane, what went into all that to finally actually flying the plane. And really what this documentary was, it just really covered the flights into space. There were like 2 or 3 flights that they took up into space, and that was really about it. It just kind of covered that, and that was it. And it didn't even cover them very well. It just sort of showed them preparing a little bit, preparing the plane, and then them shooting it up into space, and then them going up there for like a second, and then coming back down. And it's like, all right, that's it. Okay. I wanted to see a lot more detail. I wanted to know a lot more about what went into creating this plane. I wanted to know about it. I wanted to hear more about this. There's this plane that goes up into space. It's really cool. They won the X Prize. It's fantastic. It's this great feat of engineering here, and we don't really learn too much about it. So not a very well done documentary. I was really disappointed in this. Again, I was really intrigued, really wanted to hear more about what went into making this plane, and what went into to doing this, to getting where they got to, and we don't really get much of that. So unfortunately, not a very well done documentary. I really wouldn't recommend it. And then the last title I have here to talk about, this is one I was totally taken back by. I did not expect this to go where it went, and that is The Lincoln Lawyer. I just thought this was going to be a documentary, or not documentary, a drama, just about, just a courtroom drama. That's what I was expecting. Now, I wasn't really expecting too much out of this. I hadn't heard anything about this. I didn't even bother reading the synopsis. I basically heard it was good. That's what I had heard. So that's why I bought it months ago. And now finally getting around to checking it out. And I was so thrown for a loop, but pleasantly thrown for a loop when I saw where this movie went. When it, in a bit of a spoiler here, but when it went from this client setting up Matthew McConaughey, setting him up to defend him when Matthew McConaughey ends up finding out that he's a murderer, and that somebody who Matthew McConaughey ends up defending at one point, who ends up going into jail, was like not guilty of this murder, who his new client is actually guilty of the murder, and his new client, is this mass murder, going out killing people, and again he has to defend this murderer. He knows this guy is a murderer. He's killed people, and he has to defend him anyway. And the way this guy set Matthew McConaughey up to do this is pretty awesome. But of course, Matthew McConaughey, being the slick lawyer he is, because he plays like the best of the best lawyers in this movie, I love watching him get his revenge. And even though he has to kind of sort of follow these rules and sort of abide by this murderer, because he's kind of screwed, he really can't do anything about the fact that he has to defend him. It's really interesting to watch him still get back on this his client and actually get him in trouble and get him charged for these murders, and the way he has to sneakily go about doing it, but the way that he is who he is. He's this super slick lawyer, and he's got to find some loopholes and some ways to get around stuff, but he does what he has to do, and in the end gets his revenge. So very cool, very suspenseful, very well done movie. Not at all what I was expecting, but I was pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed it. So The Lincoln Lawyer is something to check out. Like I said, I thought it was going to just be a courtroom drama. Proved to be a lot more than that. I would say a lot more like a suspense sort of thriller of a movie. So definitely check this one out. Very enjoyable. Lincoln Lawyer, something you gotta see. So there you go, guys. That is it. That is everything that I've recently checking out. Pretty much, I would say everything I watched was decent. Definitely worth checking out, with the exception of Black Sky. I really did not enjoy this documentary. Thought it was pretty bad, but Her was good. Definitely, out of everything, check that one out. Do You Believe in Miracles? The story of the 1980s U.S. hockey team. That sounds like your thing. Check it out. Well done. If you like Jason Statham, see Safe. It was great. The Mel Brooks documentary was fantastic. Jack the Giant Slayer, mediocre, but still a fun movie. Worth checking out if you're into fantasy. Bing Flynn, great drama. It's kind of a funny story. Another great drama with some like teen funny sort of moments thrown into it. Really well done. Internship, also mediocre, very cookie cutter, but it wasn't horrible. If you're thinking about checking it out, see it. Rome Engineering and Empire, very well done documentary. If you like documentaries, see this one. And The Lincoln Lawyer, again, great sort of suspenseful thriller movie. I really loved it. Matthew McConaughey in it was great too, so see that one. So there you go, guys. That is it. So like I always say, if you like this video, please give me a like. If you're not already subbed, please do. And if you're not already over at cinemasickness.com, definitely head on over there, check it out. There's a lot more to see there than just these videos. A lot of stuff, up-to-date information on like deals and stuff going on. Definitely check that out. Of course, while you're there, check out Team Sickness. There's a lot going on with those guys as well. And also, when you're there, be sure to click on that shop tab and purchase yourself a Cinema Sickness sticker and or a Cinema Sickness button. I would really appreciate the support. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.